Hey guys, what's up? Tom here again. I'm starting the forge up again today. Today we're going to be making a pair of tongs, kind of like these. These I made in a previous video that I was going to upload to YouTube, but I was having problems uploading it. Yeah, instead of making these are made out of 3/16 by 3/4, just flat bar. I'm going to be making them out of 1/2-inch rebar today. So, yeah, I'll take you guys through a tour of the tools that I'm going to be using, show you exactly what I plan to do to these pieces in order to make them into tongs, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Alright, so for this project, we're going to be starting out with this rebar. It's just regular 1/2-inch rebar. Got it at my local Menards for about $2. It's about 24 inches long. I'm debating whether or not I'm going to keep them that long. I mean, right now I'm just going to forge out the tong end up to where I'm going to rivet it together. And, I mean, if it's too long after that, I can always just trim them down. But, what I'm going to be doing is throwing it in the forge. And to start out, I'm going to take about maybe 1.5 inches of the front here, flatten that out, widen it out, and draw it out a little bit so it's a little bit longer. It's pretty damn flat, and it's quite a bit wider. From there, I'm going to stick it back in the forge, and then I'm going to be using this right here. This is my bending fork. It's just made out of 2 pieces of pipe welded on top of a square tube, and this just sits in the vise, and you know, you'll put your work in hot and hammer it around one side and then the other side. In a previous video that I did for these tongs here, there's actually a shoulder step down from the 3/4 inch here to the about 1/2 inch that it is here. In order to get that, I use this tool here. It's called a spring fuller. Made this in the forge out of just 3/4 inch rebar. Stuck it in the forge, heated it up, bent it around, refined the shape in the, I have a big bench vise, and then I welded it to this piece of square tube so I can stick it in the vise. And what you do is you'll stick the stock in vertically, in over here, and then hammer down on top of this end right here, and that will actually create a dip on both the top and the bottom. But for these sets of tongs, since I'm just making it out of round bar, I don't really need to use that. I just thought I'd show you guys some of the other tools that I have. Yeah, after I flatten this out, I'm going to stick it in the bending fork, bend it around so it's got kind of like an S shape to it, where it'll be flat here, parallel with back here, and then it'll kind of dip down into a U and then back up. And then after I get that in, the flat part that I use, or the part that I flatten out, I'm going to stick it back in the forge, heat it up, and I'm going to fold it around itself. I'll probably use the vise and one of my cross pins to help, because I don't really have a swage block or anything. But I'm going to hammer it into a V like this. Pretty deep V, that way I can grab some pretty big pieces. The main thing that I'm looking for these to grab is railroad spikes. After I get both of those formed like that, I'm going to overlay them, mark where they meet, and then I'm going to hammer flat the area where I'm going to rivet it. I'm going to flatten it out, probably widen it just a little bit, that way I get more coverage, and then I'm going to cool them off, drill a 3/8 inch hole, because I'm going to be using 3/8 inch round stock for the rivet. And then I'm going to rivet them together, make sure they're how I want them, make any adjustments I want to the jaws, and that'll be it. Okay guys, I got the basic shape of the jaw smoothed out. Right now it's in the forge heating back up so I can take it to this bending fork here and, you know, put the nice bend in it that I need. So yeah, it should be a couple of minutes before it's hot, and then I'll turn back on the camera, and yeah. Alright guys, so here's one half of the tongs, mostly finished. The only other work that I have to do on it still is after I finish forging the second half, I need to mark where they overlap, which is probably going to be around here. And once I've marked that, I'm going to flatten it out so that it'll have an easier time, you know, I'll have an easier time riveting to it, and it'll have an easier time, you know, moving around itself. But other than that, the only other thing I have to do is put the V in the tip of here, which I'll probably do after I've, you know, flattened out the part where they meet. And then after that, it'll just be cleanup work, drilling the hole for the rivet, riveting it, and then, you know, making sure they work. Before I rivet them together though, I'm going to give them a good cleaning up with a couple of files. That way, you know, there's as little resistance as possible, you know, holding them together so that they move nice and smooth. But yeah, that's it. Right now I got the second piece heating up in the forge. So once that's, you know, hot and ready to go, I'll go ahead and do the same thing that I did with this one. Just, you know, forming the jaws, putting the bends in it, making sure everything's straight. After I get that one done, I'll go ahead and turn the camera back on and show you how I'm marking out where they meet and how I'm going to, you know, flatten that area out and do the riveting. So, yeah. Okay, so what I'm actually going to do before I, you know, smooth it out over the back of that cross peen is I'm going to, you know, set it over the vise. I've got it open just enough so that the edges will sit on it, and actually I can close that a little bit more. and I'm going to, this is just a regular chipping hammer, I'm going to set that in the center of it and hammer that down into it, and that should, you know, drive it down through here and give me the shape I want. I don't know if you guys can see it or not, but now it's got like a kind of arc to it. Okay, so now I've got the anvil set up on its edge, and I'm actually going to use the corner of the anvil to help me refine the shape and that V that I just formed in the jaws. So I got the piece heating up right now. Once it's heated up, I'll turn the camera back on and show you guys, you know, refining the shape of that jaw. So there you go. I don't know if you guys can see it or not, but it's, I'll try to tilt it this way. There, you can see it better that way. It's now got a nice channel cut into it so I can grab stock. And, you know, all I gotta do is do the same thing to the other piece, and then I'll have to flatten where they're going to join after I mark that up. I'll show you guys marking that up and how I'm gonna do that in a second. And, yeah. Okay, so now I've got my two sides forged out. They both got a nice V groove inside so that I can hold stock pretty easy. They match up pretty well. I mean, they're not perfect, but I mean, they're pretty damn close. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to overlay them and mark out where, you know, the centers meet so that I can flatten that area out so that they can, you know, rivet together better, because I mean, trying to rivet two round pieces together is pretty damn hard, and I mean, this is 1/2 inch, so riveted together, the jaws are just going to be way out of alignment. So I got to flatten them out, and then after that, I will go ahead and take a file to the flattened area, make sure it's nice and clean. Go ahead and drill the 3/8 hole for the rivet that I'm going to use. Then I'll probably go ahead, make some final adjustments, rivet it together, and then, you know, straighten the jaws out accordingly. So, yeah. Okay, so now I got my pieces marked out. I don't know how well you guys can see it in the light. It's starting to get dark out, but got a mark here and a mark, let's see, where did it go? Down here. And between there is where I gotta flatten out for the rivet. So go ahead and throw these back in the forge, flatten those out, and then go ahead and, you know, clean them up and do the rivet. Okay, so I flattened this area out. As you can see here, it kind of tapers in and just is flat. I've marked out where my centers are on both sides of the jaws. That way I can, you know, drill them and get them ready to be filed down and evened out so that I can rivet them. So next step is going to be drilling. I'm just going to drill them out on the drill press over there. I don't have any cutting oil, so I'm using WD-40 right now. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and center punch the two halves, drill out the holes, and then I'll turn the camera back on. Okay guys, so here are the assembled tongs. As you can see, you know, cleaned up the area where they, you know, mesh together so that they move nice and smooth. Drilled a 3/8 hole for this 3/8 rivet that I just cold hammered it in, but I mean, it holds pretty good. I still got to do some work. As you can see, the jaws are a little bit uneven. I gotta file those down so that they are even. There's a couple little spots here and there, like how this jaw is slightly tilted this way. I gotta heat it back up and tilt it back that way so that they're even, and then along the length of the jaws they kinda curve out that way, so I gotta heat this area up, stick it in the vise, and then bend it down so that they're even. So yeah, I'm just gonna do some cleanup work on these right now, and then once they're done I'll go ahead and turn the camera back on and show you guys the finished product. Okay guys, so here is the finished set of tongs. They move pretty nice. The jaws themselves, they have that nice V in them, and I can hold stuff up to around 1.5 inches in here pretty damn tight. I mean, tight enough where I can hammer on it real easy. Now I cleaned up the front here so that now they're even. Straighten them out a little bit. The only other thing that I have to do to these is put a bend like right about here so that these reins come back more even so I can hold them one-handed, because right now they're too far apart for me to comfortably hold it. But I don't want to start up the forge for just that. I'm gonna wait to do that till the next time I have it running for a project. So yeah, that's it for now, and thanks for watching.